family and friends and fellow YouTubers, it's Kim here from Hancock Homestead and Gardens, and it's time for a Stir It Up Saturday. And today we are going to be canning crushed tomatoes. We're kind of at the end of the season. We've used all the tomatoes that we're going to need for fresh eating, and actually we have a lot more coming on should we choose to do more fresh eating. And our Romas are coming to an end, and we've done all the salsa that we want to do. So now we're going to use what we have left to do crushed tomatoes. And the crushed tomatoes you can do with any type of tomato. We have Romas and we have Better Boys. So those will be the two types that I will be using today. Alright, and the recipe that I will be using, which I have done this so many times I don't really need a recipe, but I always like to read the recipes from the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving, just so you, the followers and beginning canners out there, know that there are recipes for even the simplest canning projects, such as canning crushed tomatoes. Okay? Now, tomatoes is one of those fruit slash vegetable that you can do either with water bath canning, which I'm going to be using, or you can do them with a pressure canner. Okay? Alright, now you can also pack tomatoes whole. Okay? You can blanch them, peel them, and pack them whole into the jars. We, however, usually use our tomatoes crushed for things like chilies and soups. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Okay, so making the crushed tomatoes, I'm going to be needing tomatoes, lemon juice, and salt, which is optional. I probably will not add salt, okay? Because I add salt to my main ingredients whenever I get ready to cook the soup or the chili, so I don't really want additional salt in the tomatoes. Alright, so step one says prepare the canner, jars, and lids. Alright, well, I have the canner going back here. Okay, so I have the jars in the canner, and I have the rings and the lids, and they're hot water preparing. Alright, step 2 says, working in small batches, immerse the tomatoes into boiling water for 30 or 60 seconds until the skins are loose or begin to crack. And then immediately plunge them into a bowl of cold water to slip the skins off. And after you do that, remove the cores and any bruised or discolored portions that become apparent after blanching. So in other words, it's telling me I need to blanch the tomatoes. Alright, so here we go. First thing up, blanching the tomatoes. So I'm going to fill my blanching colander to about 3/4. Alright. Then I have my water boiling right here. I'm going to take my blanching pot and I'm going to slip it down into my boiling water. Be careful because it's always hard to judge these water levels sometimes. There, perfect. Alright, I'll bring you in for a look. I have one tomato that is not covered, so I'm going to take it out. Alright, let me bring you in for a look. Alright, so here I am blanching the tomatoes. I just have them in that deep colander, submerged into hot water. I'm going to do this for 30 seconds to a minute, and then I will be transferring them over here into this deep pan of ice water. Today I decided to use my deep pan for the ice water and my shallow pan for the tomatoes. So there we go. We are ready for the blanching process. There are my jars, there are my lids. Alright. So you don't really need to set a timer to do this. You can just count to 30, kind of estimate a minute. I mean, it's not, blanching is not an exact science when it comes to the tomatoes. You just kind of look for when the skins are starting to loosen up. And like, I don't know if I can show you this one or not. I don't know if you can see it from clear over there. But this one, the skin is starting to get loose. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this batch over and submerge it into the cold water. Lift that blanching pot out, make sure you get all that hot water drained off. You do not want to burn yourself. Alright, so I need 30 seconds in the cold water. What the cold water does is it stops the cooking process and it encases the enzymes and the vitamins that are in your fruits and vegetables. Alright. So, now I'm going to lift the blanching pot out and let the cold water drain off of it. I'm going to dump that batch into this pan. Alright, and then I'm going to do my next batch. And this is what I'm going to be doing until I have all of the tomatoes blanched. Okay? And as you can see, I have Romas, I have Better Boys, just whatever tomatoes that we have coming on strong and that we're not using for anything else are going to be turned into crushed tomatoes. Looks like I'm going to have to do maybe about 3 blanchings here. Okay guys, so I know the recipe said to prepare your canner lids and jars, but you may not actually want to start heating them up to boiling point until you get your tomatoes sliced and cored and crushed, because you're just heating up your house for no reason. You might as well get your tomatoes prepared first before you start all of this. Alright, last batch blanching. Now I'll be able to start. Okay, so we have completely blanched all of the tomatoes. Now we are ready for the part of taking off the skins and removing any bad spots. Okay? Okay friends, so I have finished blanching the tomatoes, and now I'm going to be peeling and coring. And the peeling and the coring is actually a pretty easy job, because after the blanching, the tomato skins, they pretty well just slide right off, okay? So it's really easy to peel them. If you do have a skin that sticks, of course you can just take your knife and peel it off with that. And then you core them. So you'll need a knife for that. You take out that top part, okay? And then you take out any bad parts there might be. And then inspect your tomato thoroughly. And then you just stick it in your pan ready to go to the next step. Now, this is not hard, but I don't know if you can tell. I have like tomato juices dripping all the way down my arm. onto my shirt, my pants. So whenever you do this, you're going to want to wear something old. And I also have a scrap bucket here for the scraps, of course. And then my pan over here to put the cored and skinned tomatoes into. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish these up, and then I'll take you to the next step. Okay? Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quarter these into this 4-cupper, because the book says working in small batches, quarter enough tomatoes to measure about 2 to 4 cups, transfer to a large stainless steel saucepan, and bring to a boil over medium-high heat. Using a potato masher, mash the potatoes, or not... mash the tomatoes to release the juices while maintaining a gentle boil, stirring to prevent scorching. Okay. Continue until all tomatoes are added and then boil gently for 5 minutes. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start quartering these, alright? Missed one. The small ones I'll probably just have. And I had one batch that I left in to blanch a little bit longer. That's why they're kind of falling, some of them are falling apart. But that's okay, they're going to get cooked anyway, so. There we go, see. So I'm going to go ahead and quarter these. And then I'm going to add them to my big stock pot. Okay? Alright. Alright, so I got the first 4-cupper ready to go in. Add that to my pot. Turn it on to about a 4. Using my potato masher, I'm going to crush up my tomatoes. Okay friends, so I have all of my tomatoes in the stock pot, and they have been gently boiling for 5 minutes now, so that means I'm ready to put them into the jars. Okay, the jars are back here, they are now boiling, my lids are ready to go, so now I can start the processing. Okay, so I just removed the tomatoes from the stove because they had boiled for 5 minutes as the recipe called, and now we are ready to move on to step 4. Alright, step 4 says, before packing each jar of tomatoes, add lemon juice to the hot jar in the quantity specified below. And I'm going to be doing quart jars, so I'm going to need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice per jar. Alright? And step 5 says add salt if using in the quantity specified below. Well, I'm not doing salt. Okay? So now I'm going to move on to step 6. And step 6 says pack hot tomatoes into prepared jars to within a ½ inch generous space from the top of the jar. Press tomatoes in the jar until space between them fills with juice, leaving a ½ inch headspace. Okay, remove any air bubbles and check headspace. Wipe rim, center lid, screw down ring. Okay? Alright, so here we go. Okay, these quart jars are a little bit heavy, so be careful when you're pouring that water. Alright. So I need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice to raise the acid level. Because when you're doing water bath canning, you need a high acidity level. Alright? Then I am going to put in my tomatoes. I am doing quart jars because usually whenever I make chili or homemade vegetable soup, I use the larger jars. And I usually make those items, those recipes when my kids are coming home. Sometimes I'll make them just for myself, but I can always refrigerate what I don't use. So just need a little bit more here. Okay, double. Check headspace again. Yep, perfect. All right. Wipe off the jar top to get rid of any residue. Okay. Lid and ring. Okay, so this this recipe doesn't tell you how many jars you're going to get because it's not like a prepared recipe. You're just doing tomatoes, so you'll just see how many you're going to get. Alright, so let me keep filling up these jars. Alright, so now we're ready for step 7. I got 6 quarts all together. That's hot. Place jars in canner, ensuring that they are completely covered with water. Bring to a boil and process quart jars for 45 minutes. Okay, remove canner lid and then wait 5 minutes. Alright, 45 minutes. Here we go. My timer for 45 minutes. Alright, and I'll be back. Okay, friends, so as you can hear, the timer is going off. I had processed them for 45 minutes with the lid on, and then I took the lid off and processed for another 5. So we should have 6 complete jars of crushed tomatoes. And yes, that is what will happen, is you will have your tomatoes that float kind of to the top and the juices will go towards the bottom. Okay friends, so there you have it. 6 quarts of crushed tomatoes, canned, made with tomatoes from our own garden right here on the homestead. We used both Roma and Better Boy tomatoes to do this. Alright, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to know more about our homestead and what we do on it, please subscribe. And I would appreciate any comments. Thank you. Talk to y'all later. Bye for now.